Okay, this is my review for episode 8 of Supernatural Season 1 Bugs. And I have to say, this is probably the first time that I was really disappointed with Supernatural. And I think a lot of people were with this episode. I think it's kind of a really crappy episode. I mean, the monsters are kind of lame. The family of the week is just kind of boring and stereotypical, and the only really good parts in this are Sam and Dean again. I mean, thank God they're in this episode, or else, this episode would have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. You start off with the cold opening again, like we're used to, and it's at a construction site, and this guy falls in this, like, land pit. His friend is trying to get him out, and before he can get there, all these, like, creepy crawly bugs come out and kind of eat him alive, eat his brains and eat his eyes, and it's kind of bloody. And then we skip back to Sam and Dean, and they're at a pool hall, and Dean is hustling pool to make money, and Sam's like, we could just get honest jobs, but really, they could never do that. I mean, that was dumb of Sam to say, because, they're in a town for what, a week, two, three at the most, and Dean also, like, he's like, that's not how we were raised. And Dean is very much, we've learned this. Dean is very much by the books, and in what Dad says goes. He doesn't change things from how he was raised from John. So, and they fight about that a lot. Sam and Dean do, and a lot of episodes that's kind of a they they butt heads about that sometimes. Anyways, Sam finds an article about the accident and how the brain had dissolved. And they go to the construction site in search, and Sam finds some beetles, and Dean's like, whoop-de-doo, there's some beetles in the ground. They decide to search out anyways, and in the neighborhood of the housing development, there's this barbecue going on. Um, like a walkthrough of a house model. And so they go and they kind of crash it. But after Mary died, they've never owned a home. And Dean talks about that, how, living in a neighborhood, in a housing development, actually, probably even in a house, would just be really weird for him, and said it would freak him out. And I like that Sam says, there's nothing wrong with normal, because that's what he tried all those years in college. He was trying to live a normal life, but we know that, it didn't work out for him. Um, so I think he's just kind of holding on to that last little bit of hope that someday they could live a normal life, but it's never gonna happen. Ever. You think this is bad, wait until you get to season 6. But they go into the party, and it's kind of funny because there's this little gag that this is the beginning of it, where people think that they're gay, that Dean and Sam are gay, instead of brothers. And sometimes they go and play it up, and other times they are like, no, 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 we're brothers.
Well, let me just say that we accept homeowners of any race, religion, color, or sexual orientation.
Right. I'm going to go talk to Larry. Okay, honey?
They're at the party, and Sam meets the developer's son, and he has this strange fascination with bugs. He's probably, like, I'm guessing 16, and he has this, I think it's his pet tarantula. And Sam, it's interesting, the connection, because Sam kind of sees himself in the son, where he doesn't get along with his dad. His dad wants him to be one thing, the son wants to be another. And Sam really is empathetic with that and really understands his plight. Um, and Sam even, like, asked Dean, doesn't that remind you of Dad? And Dean's like, what? Because Dean and Sam had a different experience growing up. Because Dean was always, Dean was always very much by the book, always listening to Dad. Whatever Dad said went, and he didn't think Dad was wrong. But Sam was the one that wanted the normal life. He kind of rebelled against the way that they brought up. He followed their dad, but that doesn't mean he, like, agreed with it. He's the one that wanted to be in sports, go to school. He didn't want to really hunt. And so they kind of had a different I mean, it was the same childhood, but they just had different experiences and different views on things. And this episode does a good job of touching on those a little. So after the barbecue, they find an empty house in the development and they kind of squat in it. And at that night, one of the real estate agents dies. Her bathtub gets like exploded with spiders, and she slips and falls, and it's very gross. And then the next day, Sam and Dean do a little bit more investigation, and they go to the real estate lady's house and see the spiders, and then they see Matt, which is the son, and they're suspicious of him because he has this fascination with bugs, and bugs keep popping up everywhere. So they follow him into the woods. Matt says how he's been following kind of the same pattern about the bugs, but his dad won't listen to him. And he said it's because he's disappointed in his freak son. And once again, Sam can kind of relate to that but then Sam tells him, don't worry about it because in 2 years you'll be in college and you can get away. And Dean completely goes off on him about that. He's like, what kind of advice is that? Because you need to tell him to stick with his family. For Dean, family is all he has. Like I talked about, I think in my last video, Dean doesn't have any connections. He doesn't have any relationships outside of his family and the few family friends, which are all hunters. That's it for Dean. And Sam is kind of in the same plight because he never, we learned that he never really got along in college. He never really made it. I don't think Dean thinks that is bad, that Sam and John are all that he has. I think he's okay with that. But he's very sensitive about that, even though he doesn't like to show it. So I think to hear Sam say, you can break away from your family, I think that kind of hits him in a place that we haven't seen before. And so that's why he gets kind of mad about it. And he kind of scolds Sam about it and saying, tell him to stick with his family. He needs to respect his dad, not try to break away from him. And Sam, says how John was disappointed in him because he wanted to do normal things. He wanted to go to school. He wanted to play soccer. And John wanted him to hunt because that was the most important thing. To hunt, to save people, and to find the thing that killed their mom. When he got into Stanford, John and him got into this humongous fight and he got kicked out of the house. And I think that kind of hurt him, and I think that still kind of haunts him to this day because I don't think John and him have really seen each other since that. Dean tells him that John used to go to Stanford sometimes and watch Sam and make sure he was okay, and that kind of took Sam back. I'm conflicted on how to view this because one, I think it makes John, not as bad as he seems because he is looking out for Sam. He didn't completely cut ties with him, but then again, he didn't let Sam know that he was there. So Sam never knew that his dad still, cared about what happened to him. In the woods, they find these bones, and they could be related to a Native American tribe. So they go to this Indian reservation to find out information, and it's funny because Dean doesn't hit it off very well with the Native American that they're trying to talk to because he thinks that Dean lies, which he does. He lies about everything. But then he trusts Sam because he says Sam's not a liar, which is totally not true. Sam doesn't lie as often as Dean, but Sam does lie. He tells them this legend of an angry Native American whose family or group or whatever got killed, and so he cursed the land, and it happens to be the land the housing development is on. And they said that you can't break a curse, and that I'm surprised that they haven't figured out how to break a curse, that they haven't come across that before and figured out a way to somehow break it or lessen it or something. They don't ever come up with the way to break the curse on this one. So they call Matt, and he says that their backyard is crawling with bugs. So Sam says, you have to make your dad listen to you and get out. And Dean completely is like, no, because his dad isn't going to listen. His dad, it hasn't been enough time for his dad and him to have some healing. So his dad is not going to listen to him. So Dean is like, lie to your dad. Tell him that you have a sharp pain or whatever, and tell him you have to get to the hospital. Just as long as you get out of the house, it's fine. But then they show up and they still haven't left because Matt told them the truth, which is good. It's good that he told his dad the truth instead of lying to him, because, lying's never really good. But it doesn't get them out of the house, and they're kind of stuck because the skies start swarming with bugs. They hide in the house and they barricade themselves in there, and the rest of the episode is just them kind of like waiting things out. Bugs try to get in the house, they hide in the attic. It's supposed to last the entire night, and it only seems like it lasts for maybe 10-15 minutes. Anyways, after the curse is over, the developer decides to quit developing on the land. Sam and Dean leave, and Sam says how much he wants to find Dad. And Sam says he wants to apologize, which is, I think, is a big step in healing for Sam. Because I think up until now, he's been very angry at his dad and doesn't understand his dad, doesn't think his dad understands him. But now he wants to find his dad, and he wants to make amends, and he wants to apologize. Grading on this episode, character development, 19 out of 22. We get to hear, a little bit about what it was like growing up for Sam and Dean with John and how it affected them both. But it's not really that much information, and we really don't get that much character development from the supporting characters in this episode. Good balance between emotional pull and action-driven, 13 out of 17. Nothing really feels that urgent in this episode. The action is just kind of blah. There's not really that much there until the very end, and it's not really that much action. It's just bugs killing people. There's no really good fight scenes. The only emotion we slightly get is out of Sam, but it's not really that much. I've seen a whole lot better. Effective use of music, 4 out of 5. The original music is really good in this episode. Classic rock, I don't remember really any. I mean, I know there is some, but I can't tell you what it is. So if that happens, it's not a very good use of music. Special effects, 10 out of 10. Even though I don't like this episode, the bugs are very well done. And I know a lot of them were CGI'd, but they look pretty good. Yeah. Overall story quality of the week, 19 out of 27. This episode just does not do anything for me. Actually, this entire disc 2, is just kind of disappointing. Other than Bloody Mary, the rest of the episodes are just kind of blah, and I would never intentionally seek them out to watch unless I'm marathoning the entire show of season 1. The monster of the week is kind of lame, and the only good things are the interactions between Sam and Dean, so it's not very top quality for Supernatural. I expect better. Monster of the week, 5 out of 10. Lame. Bugs are lame. And curses are just, I don't like them. I don't know why people can't come up with a decent story involving Native Americans that don't involve curses. I mean, that's so stereotypical. I want to see something different. Don't ask me because I'm not the creative one, but something. Acting, 5 out of 5. I don't have an issue with acting in this episode. They act the crap out of this episode for how bad it is, so. Contributing to season-long arc, 1 out of 4. Again, this episode just does not do anything other than them saying, we gotta find Dad. We don't know that. So this episode does nothing for the season-long arc. So total 76 C. This is the first C. And I don't think there's another C episode in the season 1. I don't think. This is probably the first and only truly disappointing episode of Supernatural in season 1. But I don't know, maybe you like it. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.